What do we have going on here?
Alright, I did not do a very good job on the repairs back in part 1. I mean, the headrests work, those work beautifully. It's the massage that only lasted about 30 seconds and then the ladders burst again and it didn't work out. And unfortunately, a new issue has come up. The heated and cooled seats aren't heating and cooling anymore. I mean, I can hear the blower spinning up, and Forscan says the thermoelectric bits are doing their thing, but I'm still cold, or hot, depending on which one I don't want to be at the time. I figured it was probably my fault and it had something to do with the massage retrofit, so I got the seats out, got them down to the basement, opened them up, and it turns out it was my fault and it had everything to do with the massage retrofit. So let's take a look, see what all it took to fix it and get it working the way it's supposed to work, because it was a bit more involved than I thought it would be. But on the plus side, since it's below zero outside right now, I'm not going to be running the fan and drowning out my voice like I did last time. Let's take a look.
Before we begin, a quick overview on how the systems work. The Massage is a set of pneumatic air bladders, 4 in the seat, 3 in the backrest, with a pump and a control module. You saw it in the first video. The heated and cooled seats are done by these. Each is a blower attached to a thermoelectric device. This side blows into the seat cushion, this side goes nowhere. The backrest has this duct discharging air towards the floor. Whether you select heat or cool determines which half of the TAD gets hot or cold. I'm just going to call this whole thing a blower throughout the video. In part 1, you might have noticed a half-assed repair on the driver's seat blower. During the original massage install, I ripped that duct and wrapped it in electrical tape as a quick repair. When I was diagnosing the poor performance right before filming all this, I broke it even more. I don't have a spare driver's side blower, but I do have a spare passenger side. I just need to swap the metal bracket and the duct to convert it into a driver's side. A new duct is easy enough to make. A little bit of sketching, draw some lines, make some planes, more lines, loft, shell, done. The connectors face different directions, but that's minor, it'll still work. I did have this little custom extension piece to direct air into the seat, and we saw that back in part 1. I've got a slight tweak to that design, but we'll look at that later. And that's it for the lower blowers. If only the rest of it was that easy. Now let's take another shot at the leaking bladder. Back in part 1, I tried heat sealing it with a vacuum sealer, and that didn't work. It was worth a shot at least. The factory seams looked heat sealed. I also tried using my soldering iron, but that didn't work. I didn't think to just try a lower temperature, and it's too late now. So here's my overcomplicated strategy this time. Take the bladder, clamp it between these metal bars with just the very bottom exposed, and squeeze a whole bunch of E6000 into the leaky point, filling the void. I've never actually used E6000 before, and I didn't have a plan for it leaking back out the hole. I had to move fast, I couldn't record the in-between. Once I had the bottom region filled, I moved the metal bars to the seam, then inflated the bladder as fast as I could, then set them vertical like this to cure. I also didn't know that E6000 smells terrible and takes several days to cure, so that was pretty cool. 3 days later, E6000 is cured, but I'm not convinced it's going to be strong enough on its own. I was workshopping the idea of using copper tubing to fashion some type of external crimp, but I didn't have a lot of confidence it could actually be done. The alternative that I came up with is a bit out there, but hear me out. Binder clips. Whole bunch of them with a plastic strip to keep them in a line. Just trust me on this, okay? They're small, they have smooth edges, and they hold tension all on their own. Look at this, it's holding just fine. And this is the really bad one where the entire bottom was cut off. When I moved the driver's bladders further forward, their hoses got in the way of the seat blower's path to the cushion. That's what that little extension was all about that we still aren't looking at. I just put it back in last time, didn't think any more about it. But what if we extended this hose and shortened this one so they could avoid the blower altogether? Yeah, something kind of like that. But this bulky couplings can be replaced with a much smaller barbed fitting. See, it works. And now we can finally talk about that new extension piece. Well, that's it. It's thinner and shorter than the old one. I also added these little covers over the binder clips. I did both sides just to keep it even, or even-ish, because this bladder is still short. But you can see I put the barb fitting in, just like I promised. Final change, I made all these lines a little bit longer. The factory ones are too short, pulled too tight, and I hated how their quick disconnects were right at the blower. That's better, little extra slack. Now that the seat cushions are squared away, we can take a look at the seat backrests. Here's where we really start to see the problems. So first off, I don't have matching backrest massagers. One came from an Explorer, the other from a Lincoln MKS. I have everything packaged in here exactly how Ford did it on the MKS. The blower is attached to the cushion, the duct is routed behind the massager. So you'd think it would work fine, and you'd be wrong. What ends up happening is that when the lumbar bladder inflates, the duct pulls the blower away from the cushion. At full lumbar inflation, it pulled hard enough that the blower's mounting twine actually ripped right out of the cushion. When that happens, the blower can't get air into the cushion anymore, and thus no heating or cooling. So, okay, the Lincoln design sucks. What about the Explorer design? The two use different mounting points. Lincoln mounts to a wire towards the rear of the seat and leans slightly back. The Explorer mounts in holes in the seat frame towards the center and leans slightly forward. Here's the Lincoln and the Explorer. I used the Explorer on my side because I liked how it pressed harder against my back. Turns out that design also pulled much harder on the blower. Like, take a look at this. That blower is nowhere near where it needs to be. I didn't know until during this repair that pretty much every later model got rid of the cushion-mounted blowers. Instead, the blower is attached to the lumbar or the massager, and there's a rubber duct going into the cushion. There's also no downward-facing discharge duct. It just discharges into the rear portion of the seat cavity. Just to really drive home how bad this older design is, let's go one step further back. The heated and cooled seats, as they came on my Flex from the factory, no modifications. Here's the factory blower with some markings showing where the outlet is. Here's markings on the cushion where the hole is. If we put this back on that, onto the factory hook, look at that, it doesn't line up at all. Yes, I did have to glue the twine back in place, but it wasn't ripped completely out, just partially. It's right back where it used to be. See, other seat, same deal. The blower and the cushion don't line up worth a damn. So how do we fix this? We can start by removing this duct. It's apparently optional. But even with that gone, the blower outlet will be pressed up to the lumbar bladder. I could cut this portion out so the air discharges back instead of down like the new ones do. It probably would have been easier, so I didn't. I could also buy the newer style blowers with the flexible duct, but that also would have been too easy. So I went with the most complicated method. I designed and printed my own flexible duct. It slides into the cushion hole, zip ties to the twine, and hot glues to the blower. It's got a little bit of flex, and it holds the blower away from the bladder. I gave it a little test run, but it's hard to tell if it's moving the air any better. Should be, at least. So we have the blowers working, and the massagers working. All good, right? No, let's make this even more complicated. I didn't actually like how hard the Explorer design pressed against my back. It would have been nice to have a second MKS assembly, but the donor car was crushed before I could get it. So let's really start having some fun. I have a Lincoln lumbar, a stainless rod, a blowtorch, and a bucket of water. 2 bends, easy enough to do. 17 bends, a little trickier. So now I get to move this onto that. It doesn't look too bad, just unbending these little wires. It was too bad, they put up a fight. But we have twins now. I added a little bit of tubing to protect the airlines, and I also wrapped it in tape because the other ones have this plastic coating for whatever reason. Either noise or rust, I don't know, it doesn't matter, let's get these installed. Looks like Dexter came to help this time. And it seems pretty good. It's in there, it's lined up, I had a hell of a time hooking these rods on. Mine isn't as flexible as the factory rod, so it took some wrestling. But the blower can move around as needed, no conflicts, no worries. So let's worry about the wiring. I half-assed it during the original install, I half-assed it again during the repair in part 1. This time I'm gonna whole-ass it. Back in part 1, I moved the blower from the climate module to an Adafuse. I forgot to put the original fuse back in, and turns out that was for the horn. Didn't figure it out until lane keeping part 3 when I couldn't get the horn to double honk when I needed it to. So, whoops. Anyway, the wiring is cleaned up. I'm getting rid of the Wagos because I brought my crimping kit out here like I should have done the first time. I've got the same fuse and relay as before, but hey, an actual Y cable for the 2 seats this time. I've got a new run going to the passenger side, and I discovered there's a controller for the DVD headrests. I'm just going to leave that in place because it's glued down pretty good. It's a load-bearing module now. I'm also a bit concerned because these connectors aren't rated for a lot of current. The MKS specifies a 15 amp fuse, and these are only rated for like 4. But the MKS also uses 20 gauge wire, and that's certainly not rated for anywhere near 15 amps. So I guess we won't know until we get these seats back in. Alright, well, it's probably easier if I zip tie the blower extension before the massage gets installed. I have to get these zip ties on tight. I did this one in situ and it wasn't fun. Yeah, see, that's kind of what I'm going for. Alright, well, this is looking pretty good. The blower and the massage are playing nice with one another. We got plenty of slack on this one. Now the fun of getting the covers back on. I don't have a hog ring plier, so I'm going to do what the internet says and use zip ties. Not the cheap plastic ones, it's got to be the good ones with the metal tang that you steal from work. Ah, damn it, I was hoping to do this all without bloodshed. Of course, trying to get that connector back around this edge to this connector, I stuck my hand in there and just the slightest pressure on that edge is all it took. I hate how sharp these seat frames are. Well, got it. Alright, one seat reassembled, but unfortunately, I think putting them back in the car is going to have to wait until tomorrow. It's tomorrow, the seats are back together, and I have 0 extra parts. As long as you ignore all of those parts. And I also lost a Christmas tree clip somewhere. Oh man. You know, these things went down the stairs a lot easier than they came back up. Now to get them back in the car. Alright, seats back in and connected. Let's see what kind of current we're pulling. It's really not pulling a whole hell of a lot, is it? 15 amp fuse from the factory, but I'm seeing maybe 1 amp. I think these connectors will be just fine. I really need to start labeling these end caps because I can never remember which one goes where. I'm pretty sure these go on the passenger side, but I could be wrong. I don't know. Hey, Jump Cut. It's done, and I found a gift from the previous owner. A metric quarter. Neat. So I'm going to take this out for a little drive, run some errands, and see how everything works. Alright, I'm out here at the Costco, and you know what? It's working. I can feel the heat, both sides. The massage hasn't blown, yet. There's really not much more to say on this. Would I recommend anyone else do it? Probably not. I mean, it's a lot of effort for a rather underwhelming massage action, but I'm the type of person to do it anyway just because I can. But anyway, I've got nothing more to say on this, so I will see you in the next one. Oh, good news. I did find the missing Christmas tree clip. Looks like the Roomba tried eating it.